This lesson will teach you how to write diatomic elements. So I'd like for you to consider the question on the screen. The oxygen in the air around us is, and I'd like for you to choose what do you think is the correct formula for oxygen in the air. So I'm going to give you a second to do that, or pause the video and think about it. The correct answer is C, O2 gas. So you may be asking yourself, why is oxygen written as O2 instead of like O on its own, because in the air it's in its elemental form? That is because oxygen is one of 7 diatomic elements. There are 7 diatomic elements. When in their elemental state, they exist in a pair. That's what di means. The prefix di means 2, so 2 atoms. On your periodic table, there are shaded boxes that help you recognize which elements are diatomic in their elemental state. So that would be hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. So let's look at our periodic table. Here you can see that we have them shaded in a light gray to help you identify them so you don't have to memorize them. These 7 elements are special in that when they are in their elemental state, they exist as a pair. They're bonded together. So hydrogen makes a bond to hydrogen. That line just represents a bond. Nitrogen actually makes 3 bonds to another nitrogen. Oxygen makes 2 bonds. Fluorine makes 1 bond. So on and so forth. You don't need to know about the bonding. That's just some extra information. But what you do need to know is that whenever you see one of these elements in their elemental form, it will be written with this little 2. So if you have oxygen in the air, that's oxygen gas. If you have fluorine gas, that's going to be F2. Nitrogen gas, that's going to be N2. Chlorine gas, that's going to be Cl2. Bromine and iodine do not exist in their gaseous state, so they will not have a gas label, but it'll say something like pure bromine or just bromine, Br2, or iodine. So if it's not written with anything else like a compound, it is a diatomic, but only for these 7. Diatomic elements, that's the important part of this, elements travel in pairs. But in compounds, so as a salt, this rule does not apply. So calcium oxide, as we know, calcium has a +2 charge, and oxygen has a 2- charge. So these go together in a 1-to-1 ratio. It is not CaO2 because this only happens when it's in its elemental form by itself. Instead, it just should be CaO. And sodium iodide, which is Na plus and I minus, are not in a ratio of 1-to-2 because, again, the iodine only exists in a diatomic when it's by itself. It's really NaI. And aluminum bromide, Al3 plus and Br minus, is not AlBr2 because if you put this salt together in the proper ratio, you should have 3 bromines to every 1 aluminum, AlBr3. So make sure that you are aware of the fact that diatomics and this rule of 2 only happens when they are by themselves. Oxygen gas, hydrogen gas, so on and so forth. So on your homework, you should be able to write the proper formula for elements and salts and write the phase of matter.